Шановні колеги, ми продовжуємо роботу. До слова запрошується речник міністерства.
Now the floor is given to Ministry of Defense spokesman on NATO-related issues, Colonel Andriy Lysenko. Good afternoon, dear colleagues. Now the information about the events that happened in the ATO zone during the last 24 hours and about training of Ukrainian armed forces. The Lugansk sector, yesterday the militants delivered short-term intensive shellings with the use of heavy weapons in Novaidarsk and Popasnyansky regions. And Lobacheva, Krymske, Novoalexandriivka, Novozvanivka and Troitska came under enemy fire. And the enemy launched 20 artillery shells and about 50 mines of different caliber. In the majority of cases, it happened during dark hours. In the same part of front line, the enemy sporadically used small arms, grenade launchers, and armored vehicles. In the result of militant share in Valuisky village, Stanishna, Lugansk region, a teenager was wounded. During the last 24 hours in the Lugansk sector, there were 12 enemy shelling, 7 with the use of heavy weapons. The Donetsk sector, along the front line, the militants deliver fire during the day and at night. They use tanks, cannons, mortars, and snipers. The most tense situation in the region of Avdiivka and in adjacent positions. Traditionally, the occupants are active during the second part of the day, and they fire from several directions. Heavy weapons is used by the militants, and they shell the all our positions. And one of the emplacements for the delivering of artillery fire, the enemy deployed in Spartak village school. The enemy deliver fire near Avdiivka, Kamenka, and Shakhtavutivka. The enemy launched more than 150. Ukrainian forces returned fire. Yesterday in the evening, the shell blew up in the old part of Avdiivka. One of the shell hit the private house. Now electricity and heating supply is restored in the town, and it was said previously military actions are in Svetlodarsk Bulge near Gorlovka and in the Donetsk airport. On the whole, during the last 24 hours in the Donetsk sector, there were 32 enemy shelling, including 17 with the use of heavy weapons. The Mariupol sector. Yesterday in the morning, the situation sharply deteriorated near Novotroitska. There was firing for 2.5 hours. The enemy used artillery, mortars, armored vehicles, and snipers. During this time, the enemy launched about 70 mines and shells at our positions, and mortar shelling delivered by the enemy happened in Starognatovka, Gnutovka, and Vodyane. The occupants continue to deliver fire with the use of small arms along the front line, starting Krasnogorovka to Shirokine. On the whole, during the last 24 hours in the Mariupol sector, there were 33 enemy shellings, including 7 with the use of heavy weapons. During the last 24 hours, in the result of the military actions, 2 Ukrainian servicemen were killed, 8 were wounded. These losses Ukrainian forces sustained in the course of mortar shelling delivered by the enemy in Lobacheva. 2 servicemen died and 6 were wounded. 2 more servicemen were wounded in Avdiivka, one of them woman. Our hearts go out to the relatives of the servicemen who died. Law enforcers continue to seize ammunition in the ATO zone. In Bakhmut, law enforcers confiscated 2 kilograms of gunpowder. Local resident wanted to transport them to the peaceful territory of Ukraine. Paratroopers of the military academy deployed in Odessa pass practical part of the exams. In Chernomorsky firing ground, officers to be carry out duties of commanders. They command the detachments that are composed of servicemen who served under contract. In firing ground of Donetsk Oblast, servicemen took part in practical training with live fire. Combined detachment of mechanized tank and artillery forces rehearsed the stop of the offensive of the imaginary enemy that broke the first line of defense and counter-offensive actions. And the servicemen of 15th Rocket Artillery Regiment of the Armed Forces of Ukraine took part in tactical trainings. Artillerymen rehearsed planning of military actions with the support of and control fire attack. In Sumshina, servicemen of National Guard carried out comprehensive training in case of emergency. In the course of training, they rehearsed the organization and battle service and support for transporting special freight, the algorithm in case of emergency, and were trained to provide medical help and evacuate the wounded. At the same time, in Vinnytsia, National Guardsmen improved their skills of firing, and also they rehearsed their skills, they improved their skills in mortar firing. Do you have questions? No questions. This is the end of press briefing. Thank you. Dear colleagues, the next event is at 1:30.